Hey folks, in this one we are covering Java variables. Java variables are so easy, but it is such a fundamental process in Java. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. Simply, a variable is a container that can be assigned a value. How do we declare a variable and how do we assign it a value? Simply put, right here. This is how you completely go ahead and declare it. So data type. So if I was declaring an int, I would put int and then the name of the int. So let's say I put number of students. I'll put number of students equals, and then int is a data type that accepts only whole numbers. So I would do equals 25 and then semicolon. But as you can see here, I have primitives and references wrote down. Well, what is that about? There's actually two types of variables inside of Java. There is primitives and there is references. Primitives are variables that hold actual values, and references more or less point to a specific spot in memory where that object is held. And we'll get more into objects, but that's all you really need to know for now is references point to a specific spot in the memory where the object or the class is held. So going over the primitives here. Byte, short, int, and long, these are all ones that accept whole numbers. So like I could write for int, I could give it a value of 50. But if I were to give it a value of 50.5, it would have a problem with that. And it would throw me actually an error inside of IntelliJ telling me that I cannot do that. But if I were to go down to float and double here, I could do 50.5 or 50. Double and floats are good for tracking decimal point numbers. And, they do not have anything against whole numbers, but they are primarily used for, like, I've seen people use them in calculator apps all the time. You will see why you use specific data types over other ones in the future whenever we go ahead and make some of these projects together. Booleans, they can either be true or false. So they cannot be both at the same time. It's one or the other. And char down here is used to represent a single character. So like S would work, but if you tried to type in ST, that would not work. And then the one reference type that we will cover in this video is going to be string. And string is declared by using quotations, sort of like how char is using these single quotes. This uses double quotes, and then like you would put st in here, where that would be invalid if you're just using a char. So let's go ahead and practice declaring some of these types. I want to make an int with the name of number of students, and I want to assign that a value of 25. So I would type in the type like I have it, the format up here. We'll do int space, and then we'll call this number of students. And then we'll do an equal sign, and then we'll do 25. And do not forget your semicolon. So this would be declaring this value in this method here called number of students. And well, how do we print this out to the console? There is two ways that I'm going to teach you guys, so you guys can keep this in your back pocket here. You could do the regular system.out.println here. If you want to be able to print the system.out.println method a heck of a lot faster, you can always type in SOUT and then press tab, and this will print out the same exact thing, but with only 5 keystrokes. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and put in number of students into here. So this would be calling the value of this variable. So if we go ahead and run it, you will see the value has printed out in the console as 25. Well, what if I took and I want to print out text in front of the 25? Well, I can do this. I can do something called string concatenation, which is basically you can put text in here and then you can add the variable in with it. So I'm going to say there are, and then after the double quote here, we will do a plus sign and then number of students, and then plus, and then another string here that says students in my class. And if we go ahead and run that, you can see there are 25 students in my class. Again, this is called string concatenation. This plus operator allows you to put variables in here as well. Moving on, let's try out some doubles. So let's make a double price equals to $2.99. And then we're going to make a print statement here that says the price is, and then we'll type in price and go ahead and run that. Now, something I have not previously mentioned here is that variables can be reassigned values as well. So let's give that a shot. So we see that the price is $2.99, but if I want to change this to now $5.99, we would just do simply by naming the variable and then using the equal symbol and then do $5.99. The reason we do not have to reiterate the double on here is because price has already been defined. We are simply just changing the value that is stored inside of that primitive. So if we go ahead and, go sys out and do, wow, that's a crazy price for a candy bar. It's now, and then use our string concatenation here, plus price. And go ahead and run that code. And as you can see, wow, that's crazy. That's a crazy price for a candy bar. It's now $5.99. So moving on now, we're going to show you guys Booleans. As I discussed earlier, Booleans are either true or false values. So just like we defined the int and the double, we're going to define a Boolean. So we're going to go Boolean is happy. And then we're going to set that to a value, either true or false. We're going to type true. And then we can, again, have this print out in a statement here. So we're going to say, am I happy? And then I'm going to add in this. And then go ahead and run that code again. Am I happy? True. And in future lessons, we will go over how we can use Booleans to control the flow of all of our programs inside of Java as well. Now, moving on to chars. So let's do char. Let's do first letter, as in like first letter of my first name. So let's do S. And as you can see, this is a perfectly valid letter. If I were to type in T though, you see how this gives me an error? It says that I'm using too many characters in a character literal, which means, yes, I need to only be using this. And then you type our typical S out statement and go, the first letter of my first name is, and then we'll use string concatenation once again, first letter. And as you can see, that is absolutely true. Now, the last type we're covering today is strings. We've actually been talking or typing the value for strings this whole time. You see these blocks right here? That's a string. That's a string. That's a string. This could be part of a string. So let's go ahead and make a string here. And let's go to string. And we'll call this a middle name. And my middle name is Albert. So let's go ahead and type that in. Albert. Now let's go ahead and concatenate this to another print statement. My middle name is, and then let's add it. Now I'm going to show you guys a little bit of common pitfalls here. String is not lowercase string. That is not the same thing as uppercase string. Char is not the same thing, like capital CHAR is not the same thing as lowercase CHAR. Same with Boolean. Same with double. All of them. So those are common pitfalls to recognize, as well as ints. So if you were to use a decimal point, it will tell you that there is a error. So make sure you're using whole numbers. Like I said, bytes, shorts, ints, and longs are for whole numbers. Floats and doubles are for numbers that involve decimal points. Booleans are for true or false. Char is for a single character. And string is for basically a collection of chars put together. And strings aren't the only references, but you'll be working in a lot more references as time goes on, especially throughout this course and whatnot. So why don't you give your guys some practice and try and come up with own variables on your own and write them out and print them into statements and what have you. But anyways, that's all you need to know about Java variables for today. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next video.